as I stated, in this, I want to talk about everything, the good, the bad, the ugly. I want to give my testimony. I want to explain how I got through it. You got to know where I messed up. You got to know where I did good. I did bad. I did horrible. But most importantly, you're gonna see how everything worked out in the end. And I got, give God all the glory. So it's gonna take some time to get through all the parts. I'm gonna do my best to not drag out the story, but you gotta remember I am unpacking about 10 years, 10 years into this series. So like I said, it's gonna be called The Broken Window, and we're gonna eventually get to the reason why I'm naming it that. But yeah, I'm gonna start from the beginning. I'm going to give just a background on my wife and I's relationship, how we met, just all the red flags that I dismissed. So many things that I did not pay attention to because of, I guess just love and things that did not matter at the time. And I'll also get to that as well. But like, God warned me many of times, this is not the one for you. But I wanted to prove my family wrong, and I wanted to just didn't want to listen to what anybody else was saying, and I just felt like this was the girl of my dreams. And I'm going to explain why. So I met her, my wife, through my favorite cousin, and they were best friends. They've been best friends since I believe they were like in second grade or something like that. And so anyway, I'll never forget it, and this is why I just thought all this was destined. And here's a little cute love story, right? Um, my cousin was about 10. No, not my cousin. I mean, we're all around the same age. My cousin's a couple of months older than me, but um, I think we were between the ages of like 10, 11, maybe. And I remember my cousin calls my pops, and she's like, "Hey, could you bring me to my best friend's baptism in Brooklyn?" And so obviously this is my favorite cousin. So I'm like, "Hey dad, I'm coming with you." So I go, and then I see this girl. She's in a white dress. She's peeking out from, the her door to open the door for when my cousin, rings on the doorbell, and I see her, just a glimpse of her, but I just felt like I saw like an angel, right? And so I remember, talking to my cousin about it later on, like, "Yo, who's your friend?" Da 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 da. And she's just laughing, like, "Oh, that's my friend, my best friend, so and so." So I'm like, "Hey, she gonna be my wife," jokingly. Now I said this at the age of 9 years old. So between 9 years old and when I got to officially meet this friend in person at 21. So between the ages of 10 maybe and 21, I used to say to my cousin all the time, anytime we would link up, just as a joke, "Hey, yo, what's good with your friend? Your friend that we brought you to in Brooklyn, right?" And she would just laugh. "She's fine. She's this, she's that." I'll never forget the day like when she told me she had her first kid. Oh, I was heartbroken. I was like, "What do you mean she got pregnant?" No, because I always said like I didn't want to be no girl who had kids, right? And she told me she got pregnant with her second kid. I was like, "Yeah, it's clipped. It's done." Like, I mean, it was not as if there was ever a chance, right? So I thought at that point, I was like, "Yeah, I ain't worried about her no more." But I would just always still keep the joke, like, "Hey, let's go with your friend. Let's go with your friend." So fast forward to 21. Um, it's my cousin's birthday. We're all going out. And I'm like, "Hey, yo, let's go with your friend. And she starts laughing. She's like, "What's so funny? You're going to meet her tonight." I'm like, "Oh, word?" She's like, "Yeah, she's going to come out with us for my birthday." And I'm like, "I bet. So I'm like getting ready to, meet this girl. And I feel so funny because I got nerves. And it's like, I've always jokingly said, like, this girl going to be my wife since the age of 10. So, she comes and we're just chilling. We're vibing in my father's backyard. That's where we pre-gaming, before we head to the spot, drinking, vibing, listening to some good reggae, soca, and just having a good time. Then we head to the spot, and I'm like, we dance here and there, but she not really showing me the time of day, and I'm thinking this girl's way out my league anyway. Anywho, then I get this DM from her, and I'm like, "Oh, the friend," right? But I'm not gonna lie. At the time that she sent me that DM, I was in a different headspace regarding relationships, right? But she wasn't. Now, like I said, I'm going to talk about the points that I messed up, red flags, times that God has given me signs to know, like, this is not the way, this is not the move. So I was in my prime. I felt like at this time I was like about 23, going on 24. And I had just finished, not just finished, but I had recently obtained 2 degrees, my associates and my bachelor's. I obtained those in 3 years. I was working, living a good life, moved to Florida, lived with a family member. And honestly, it was, I just felt like my whole life had just been full of ups and downs, but ups and downs there with this family member. So I was kind of living like a nomad, you know what I'm saying? Like, because I had got scammed and that scam had sent me into a deep depression. And the family member at the time didn't understand like why I was so depressed, and I was also embarrassed to share what I was going through. So I can't fully blame her for how I mean, granted, you're not supposed to mistreat people regardless, but she didn't know what was going on. Maybe if she knew, she would have treated me better. Well, anyway, that's not the point of the story. So my wife sends me a DM, and at that time, I'm not in the headspace to just have fun, mess around, but that's what she was looking for. And I told her, shut up. So I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for a relationship. I'm looking to settle down. Settle down. I'm 23 years old. What am I talking about? Settle down. Mistake. Why am I talking about settle down? Two, I went against my own preference of saying, I don't want to be with anybody with kids. I mean, that alone caused so much stress in our relationship. And for that reason is the reason why I didn't want to do it. Anywho, she's like, oh, I just want to have fun. That's not what I'm looking for. So I'm like, cool. I mean, then we can just honestly just go our separate ways. But what did I do? I persisted the conversation because, like I said, I was lonely. I was living in New York. Most of my family and friends I was living in Florida. Most of my family and friends were in New York. I was lonely, you know what I'm saying? And I was going through a depression. I felt like I had nobody at that time. And she was there. She was responding, So we ended up talking, but through talking, things got a little bit more serious than I guess she expected, I knew that she wanted to just do other things, but for me, I didn't. But it turned into talking stage, and like a real talking stage, and we were talking. So anyway, fast forward, I'm talking to my cousin. I'm like, yo, I think things is getting pretty serious with your best friend. And she's like, really? Red flag. So I'm like, what are you talking about, really? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, oh, okay. I thought y'all was just gonna have fun or something. Like, we going in no relationship. I'm like, yeah, no. Red flag. So yeah, I'm like, yeah, no. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I didn't know where it was at. Like I said, just the beginning. So we're talking. Next, thing you know, I get a phone call, like FaceTime. And she's like, why didn't you tell me it was hot out here? And I'm like, how weird. What are you talking about? She flips the camera. She's in the airport. I'm like, where are you? She's like, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I'm like, right? So now I'm mind blown because I'm like, what? She's like, I decided to come surprise you for Valentine's Day, and I made it like a 2-in-1 trip because I needed to. I'm meeting my sister for the first time as well, sister from her father's side, and she's like, yeah, so when can we link up? So we ended up turning the entire weekend into like a vacation, and it was so funny because like it was unexpected. And like honestly, she captured me at that point because I'm like, wow, I'm already in a vulnerable state. I'm depressed and everything, and I just feel like nobody's ever done something like that for me. Like you really showed up and showed out, and in a point like where I really needed somebody, and she knew that. She was like, I knew you needed, and we were long distance. She was in Jersey, I was in Florida, and so I'm like, okay, cool. So we link up. We had a good weekend, and you know we ended up making it official.